Goodbye, hard life. Don't cry, let it ride. Goodbye, hard life. Don't cry, would you let it ride?
Greetings and welcome back. It's your host, Gabe Morales. We've been covering some of the major outlaw motorcycle gangs in the United States. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club is an international outlaw motorcycle gang whose members typically ride Harley-Davidson motorcycles. In the United States and Canada, the Hells Angels are incorporated as the Hells Angels Motorcycle Corporation. Common nicknames for the club are HA, Red and White, Big Red Machine, 81 for the eighth letter of the alphabet H and the first letter A. They are said to have a membership of over 6,000 members, with approximately 600 charters in 66 countries. Given these numbers, the HAs are considered to be the largest outlaw motorcycle gang in the world. In this video, I'll only be covering HAs in the United States. But if you want to know more about their activities north of the border, you can check out my Canadian gangs video. Due to limited time, I will not be covering HAs in other countries, although they've had some major criminal cases overseas. Again, I don't like to keep on saying it, but there are always comments stating this OMG term is all BS. I didn't peg the Hells Angels and other one percenters as OMGs. The U.S. government and local authorities have raised multiple evidence in court on multiple cases that many Hells Angels members are involved in organized crime. And this violence historically has even extended to the organization's most senior leadership, as we soon shall see. The Hells Angels originated on March 17, 1948 in Fontana, California, also known as Felony Flats. And several small motorcycle clubs agreed to merge together. Otto Fredley, a World War II veteran, is credited with starting the club after breaking away from the Pissed Off Bastards Motorcycle Club over a feud with the rival gang. The Pissed Off Bastards are famous for having been involved in the Hollister riots in the 1940s. According to an alternative theory, the HAs were founded on November 15, 1951 in San Bernardino by Dick White, a member of the Redlands Roadrunners. According to its official website, the club's name was suggested by Arvid Olsen, an associate of the founders who had served in the Hells Angels Squadron of the 303rd Bombardment Group, which was active in Europe during World War II. Others also point to the 1930s film made by Howard Hughes, Hells Angels. But according to the Hells Angels website, they are aware that there's an apostrophe missing in Hells. But they state it is you who miss it. We don't. The Hells Angels official symbol is the death head, which is said to have been designed by an individual named Fred Sadalik, past president of the San Francisco charter. It is trademarked, and nobody except members are supposed to wear it, but they will sell apparel and associated biker gear with slogans like Support 81 or Support Red and White, etc. As with other OMGs, the HAs have a top rocker, which is their name, Hells Angels. The middle death head is their official symbol, and the bottom rocker is where they're from. When there's not yet a clubhouse in a specific area, they may wear nomads as the bottom rocker, as being nomadic until they settle down somewhere and plant their red and white flag. Like other clubs, Hells Angels will also wear other patches, such as 1%, as explained in other videos. It is said that some members wear a Filthy Few patch with 2 SS lightning bolts. Some say that this patch is only awarded to those who have committed or prepared to commit murder on the club's behalf. The Hells Angels, of course, have denied this interpretation and compared it instead to a merit badge awarded to those who were first to arrive and last to leave. According to law enforcement reports, the Qualo patch is also sometimes seen. This is in reference to a bugle call that was played by the regimental band of Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna's army at the Battle of the Alamo. The patch allegedly signifies that the wearer has fought law enforcement. And I know of one individual, Washington State HA President Smiling Rick Fable, who has worn one, and has been documented as getting into it with the cops. HAs know they will never fight alone. The number one rule is that you are to back your brothers at all times, even if you disagree with them. You're also expected to keep your mouth shut when questioned by the cops and not to discuss HA business outside of the club. There is a very strict code of silence. Only males are allowed to join the HAs, and these have traditionally been mostly white men. And one commenter asked, are they racist? I guess you could say that they're only racist in the fact that they do not allow blacks to join. However, they later allowed Hispanics to join, and they have clubs located in Asia with Asian members. They do have a charter in South Africa, but no blacks are in it. The HAs consistently have stated they are not a racist organization, and it is true. They have been seen conversing without any animosity with all black biker clubs at biker runs. But some individual HAs may be racist and have tattoos of swastikas, etc. Like other outlaw motorcycle gangs, you just don't sign up and join the club. It is a very lengthy process. First, a member has to vouch for you to even be allowed to hang around the club. Hang-arounds do minor errands for members until they gain their trust. Even then, they will do a background check on them because they are worried about law enforcement infiltration. If the hang-around is interested, he may be asked to become an associate, a status that lasts a year or two. And once another background check is cleared, they may be considered to become a prospect and will only wear the bottom rocker. To become a Hells Angels prospect, you must have a valid driver's license and a motorcycle. You then are put through a lengthy testing process where you're evaluated for suitability as a full patch member. You also have to go through what many call a hazing period. To be recognized as a full patch member, a prospect must be confirmed by the rest of the full club members. And even before these votes are cast, a prospect usually travels to every charter in the sponsoring charter's area and introduces himself to every full patch HA member. This allows more members to scrutinize the candidate, and each voting member becomes more familiar with their characteristics and can ask any questions of concern before voting. If approved, a final logo of the top rocker, Hells Angels, is awarded at initiation ceremony, along with the middle logo, Death Head, and that individual is considered to be patched in. Even after the member is patched in, the patches remain the property of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, or charter. On leaving the HAs or being rejected, a member must turn in his patches to the club. Even HA tattoos must be covered up if one leaves or is ejected from the club. If they do not, there are documented cases of these being forcibly removed. Members are to pay dues and required to attend mandatory club meetings and motorcycle runs. Charter meetings are known as church and typically held at clubhouses, but sometimes at a member's residence, especially if they sense that the clubhouse may have been bugged. Although the HAs have no official mother charter, the club's de facto national headquarters remained its founding location in San Bernardino, California, until club founder Otto Frady was imprisoned in 1958. After that time period, the club's unofficial headquarters was then relocated to Oakland, California by Sonny Barger. In contrast to other major motorcycle clubs in the United States, the Hells Angels is not headed by a national president. It is instead governed by regional officers, each who is collected to represent the rest of the charters in their area. Regional officers in the United States are divided into two groups, those on the West Coast and those on the East Coast. But both sides coordinate their activities here in the United States. The Oakland Charter has been for many years responsible for making major decisions within the club and granting new charters. Hells Angels charters often oversee smaller motorcycle clubs within their area, who are known as support clubs or puppet clubs, such as Red Devils MC. I've been told by multiple sources that here in Hawaii, Red Legion supports the 8-1. Maybe some of you viewers can verify that. These kind of support clubs or puppet clubs serve as a potential source of recruitment and earnings if they get patched over. In other words, converted to HAs. And the HAs use these clubs to establish an initial presence and testing in an area before they may form a full-fledged HA charter. According to law enforcement, these subordinate clubs often carry out crimes on the Hells Angels' behalf in order to shield the Big Red Machine from scrutiny. While law enforcement is known to keep tabs on the OMGs, the bikers also keep tabs on law enforcement. and sometimes even get assistance from disgruntled cops and other public officials. I have some personal experience dealing with HAs in California as well as Washington State. I've always been interested in different criminal groups and often cracked them. Moldy Marvin Gilbert was very close to Sonny Barger while he was with the Oakland Charter and became the Spokane vice president once the HAs set up shop in Washington State. Police say that he earned his filthy few patch by stomping a man to death in the 1970s. He served a 5-year sentence for murder at Folsom State Prison, where I used to work. And I heard he was at Altamont in 1969, working security at the Stones concert. He died in 2007. Having established a stronghold in Spokane, Washington, State President Smiling Rick Fable gave the directive to expand to the Seattle-Tacoma area. I recall viewing the Spokane HA website and noticed that it had changed to showing a demon in red and white breaking the Space Needle in half. I told my law enforcement buddies about it who work bikers and told them that I believed the HAs were coming over to Seattle. This seemed to surprise a lot of them, or at least they acted surprised to me, as Western Washington was a stronghold for the rival Bandidos motorcycle club, which I will cover in my next episode. Sure enough, we began to see more and more HA activity in the Seattle-Tacoma area, and Gangland even did an episode on them, and they are still there today. 2 HA prospects got their full patches, as well as filthy few patches, for attacking an old Hell's Angel and a guy who claimed to be the son of one, also known as a legacy, who were still talking about the old days, riding with or being around the club. Rodney Rollness and Joshua Binder were made full-fledged members after the attacks on old HA's Funny Sonny and Santa, who was killed. The case went cold into 2006 when Rollness, Binder, Fable, and HA hang-around or associate Paul Foster were arrested in 2006. After a 3-month trial in 2007, Rollness was found guilty of murder and received a life sentence in federal prison. The jury was hung on Binder, but rather than face a retrial, he took a deal for 15 years. Fable and Foster both got 7 years for racketeering and conspiracy. Binder had to cover up his filthy few tats for the shooting and killing of Michael Eugene Walsh, a.k.a. Santa, at a setup party. Binder later covered up his death head with Viking horns, as seen here, when he fell out of favor due to his testimony for a sentencing deal. They often invest in legitimate businesses like custom bike shops, tattoo parlors, as well as funding their wives' businesses, such as hair salons or boutique shops. Some say with proceeds from illegal activities. I might mention that not only do I track them, but they apparently have tracked me. When I first moved to Hawaii, I was approached by them. Nothing hostile, although it may have been meant to be an intimidating act. I hadn't been here even 1 month yet and decided to go with my wife into the only restaurant and bar in town. And we had barely sat down when 3 guys walked in and sat down at the bar, laughing and talking out very loud, saying that they got there going 81 miles per hour, code for HA. And the one in the middle was wearing his colors. There were 2 others that were in civilian clothes on each side of him, which I figured were probably hang-arounds. There were plenty of seats in the place. In fact, it was almost empty, but they sat down right in front of me and my wife when the HA whipped around and stuck out his hand and introduced himself. I politely stated, "Well, hello, I'm Gabriel," and he just smiled. Of course, I knew he already knew who I was, and my wife suggested that we relocate tables, but I told her no. I'm not going to be intimidated by him. They're just sending me a message. I understand that another HA in town was imprisoned for stabbing a Vago at a funeral, as I recall, after they had exchanged unfriendly words. The HAs established their first official charter in Hawaii in the late 1990s. And while they have kept a lower profile here than on the mainland, there are some HAs still active across the islands today. The dominant club on this island is Koa, and I've ran into quite a few of them, and they seem to be generally a good group of brothers and family men. And according to local law enforcement, they seem to keep the HAs at bay. The HAs can be very violent, as shown in the Mongols video regarding the 2002 Laughlin River Run. Another example would be the Altamont Speedway Free Festival, which was a counterculture rock concert held on December 6, 1969, just outside of Tracy, California. This was advertised as being a Woodstock West, and then is remembered for a performance by the Rolling Stones, who had used the Hells Angels as security, and scuffling and violence broke out, which resulted in the killing of Meredith Hunter, a black man. By 1978, the Hells Angels had branched out of their home state of California and spread to charters in Nebraska, Massachusetts, Ohio, New York, Connecticut, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and they have been spreading ever since. According to the FBI, the HAs and outlaws were engaged in a very violent conflict for control of the methamphetamine trade in the United States, and allegedly the HAs declared war on the outlaws during a summit that was conducted in Rochester, New York in November 1978. Allegedly, recognized HA President Sonny Barger ordered Hells Angels across the country to kill any outlaws they encountered on sight. Ralph Sonny Barger Jr. was a founding member of the Oakland, California charter of the HAs in 1957. Barger was instrumental in unifying various HA charters, some of which had been feuding, and he had the club incorporated in 1966. Arthur Hunter S. Thompson called Barger the maximum leader of the Hells Angels, but this is not entirely accurate. The HAs have no official supreme leader or godfather, but like Joe Morgan of the Mexican Mafia, if there ever was an honorary HA godfather, it'd be him. Barger underwent an operation in the early 1980s for throat cancer, which he attributed to smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Thereafter, he breathed through a plastic valve in his neck, covering the vent when he spoke. Barger served a total of 13 years in prison following a conviction for heroin trafficking in 1974 and for a 1988 conviction of conspiracy to bomb the clubhouse of a rival motorcycle gang, the Outlaws. He had been acquitted of murder several times, once in 1972 and, I believe, conspiracy to murder during a RICO case in 1980. Barger had good relations with the Aryan Brotherhood when he was housed at Folsom Prison, like other HAs, such as Doug the Thug Orr, as many HAs did. But there have been tensions at times, such as when a couple of ABs killed HA President Irish Michael Farrell. You could check out my AB Roll Call series for more information on that incident and on other HAs who were considered to be AB associates by the California Department of Corrections. On March 10, 1989, Barger was sentenced to 57 months at a federal prison in Arizona, and he was released in November 1992. In October 1997, the 5-chapter-strong Dirty Dozen MC of Arizona was patched over to become HAs, and Barger was extremely influential in this occurrence. He apparently became an advisor, even though he did not hold any official status in Arizona. He founded a motorcycle repair company called the Big Red Machine, and he later became a member of the Cave Creek Charter. Sonny remained a celebrity at many biker events, signing autographs of his books and taking pictures with fans. He married his last wife, Zorana, a model and part-time producer and children's author, on June 25th, 2005, and she was at his side during his time of passing. On June 29, 2022, Barger died of liver cancer at the age of 83 in his home in Livermore, California. Another influential and respected HA was Elliot Cisco Valderrama, who was born in San Francisco, California, but grew up in the tough streets of East LA in Southern California. In 1965, he moved up north to Santa Rosa and was introduced to some bikers and became a very proud member of the HAs by 1966. He also worked on several films over the course of 30 years. He died on February 6, 2014, and was buried on HA Row at Evergreen Cemetery in Oakland with many of his brothers. While the HAs seem to be very proud of their history of violence, there are certain acts that they have not condoned. A brutal 1977 quadruple murder took place in the rural town of Gaston, Oregon. In this case, young children were killed in cold blood, and this incident was savage enough to even make hardened convicts and Hells Angels break their code of conduct and testify against the culprits. In August of 1977, a 24-year-old Margot Compton was murdered for the transgression of testifying in a pimping trial against H.A. Otis Garrett, who is the former president of the club's charter in Vallejo, California, and whom she had been sex trafficked by. Compton wasn't simply killed, though. Acting on Garrett's orders, her murderer, Angel associate Robert McClure, first forced her to watch as he executed her boyfriend and then her 6-year-old twin daughters. In October 2023, 16 members of the Fayetteville Hells Angels were accused of involvement with organized crime. According to the federal indictment, the gang was part of racketeering operations that spanned across Raleigh and Fayetteville, North Carolina. In June 2024, a joint law enforcement operation arrested 4 HAs and 2 members of the Sons of Hell MC, an HA support club, on multiple charges in Bakersfield, California, including kidnapping, first-degree robbery, criminal threats, false imprisonment, assault with a firearm, criminal conspiracy, and intimidating a witness or victim, as well as elder abuse. Also in June 2024, 3 members of the HAs, including 2 from the Santa Rosa charter, were sentenced to life in prison for murdering another member. The indictment stemmed from the killing of fellow club member Joel Silva on July 15, 2014. Some see the HAs as a brotherhood who do good things like Toys for Tots runs during Christmas time, and that they are just a fun-loving bunch of fellas who love the freedom of the open road. But like I said, others, such as many in law enforcement, view them as a criminal organization involved in multiple illegal activities and violence and intimidation. I think it's very important to note that not all members of the Hells Angels engage in criminal behaviors, and the club as a whole has consistently denied condoning any involvement in illegal activities. Former West Coast HA president and national spokesman for the HAs after Sonny Barger lost his voice, George Christie, should probably know better than anyone what that life is about. He became a full-patch member of an LA charter in 1976 and quickly became president of the Ventura charter in 1978 and was well respected by many in the red and white organization. Some say he abused his power. Others say that some were just jealous of him. However, he ended up butting heads with longtime shot caller Sonny Barger over some decisions made about the club. Sonny then put the word out that Christie was on disregard status. Christie left the club in the year 2011 after he had become very disillusioned and depressed and upset with the actions of Sonny Barger. He recalls the moment he decided to leave the Hells Angels, which he dedicated a good part of his life to. He states a lot of things had changed. I walked into the meeting and I told everybody what I was going to do. It was a very difficult decision. I said, we have become the people we rebel against, and I'm walking away. It's time for me to move on. I thought foolishly that I'd be able to walk away because of my position in the club and the 40 years I had given to them, Christie admitted. But the bottom line is you're either in or you're out. He shared his account on an A&E series, Secrets of the Hells Angels, which examines the history of the Notorious Biker Club. He also has a YouTube channel, which I have found to be very interesting. And he recently interviewed my friend J. Bird Dobbins, who joined the ATF in 1987 and was involved in more than 500 undercover operations during his 27-year career as a special agent. In order to infiltrate the Arizona HAs, his boss at the ATF's Phoenix office devised a very complex scheme under which a chapter of a real Mexican outlaw biker gang, the Solo Angeles Motorcycle Club, would be established in Arizona and made up entirely of undercover officers and informants who would seek an alliance with the HAs. On May 31st, 2003, Dobbins became a prospect for the Skull Valley Charter, which had fallen down to 4 members. The HA Constitution states that a charter must have at least 6 members at all times, or possibly lose their recognition. His boss was strongly opposed to Dobbins joining the HAs, which he believed would compromise the ATF's operation. But Jay Bird was very much up for taking the offer, which led to a very heated dispute. His boss felt that Dobbins and fellow agents had obtained enough evidence to bring a RICO case against the HAs. Meanwhile, Dobbins felt the operation be taken further, as he believed they could gain even more evidence against the club. Of course, politics won out, and the brass at the ATF pulled the plug on the operation. Dobbins felt very betrayed by what occurred and endangered by the ATF, who left him hanging after the operation was done. with no protection. You can read more details about that in his book, No Angel, My Harrowing Undercover Journey to the Inner Circle of the Hells Angels. Again, I'd like to thank all of the law enforcement officers who schooled me on the HAs and other bikers, including all those depicted in the gangland video. Thank you also Bubba Williams and Richard Baltimore, former LA Sheriff's Department detectives. Well, I know that was a lot of information, and I left out a lot about the HAs due to lack of time. But I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and share this channel with others if you think they may be interested. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians.